Folks, let's start. Please note that this session is being recorded. I know there's some notice that you were given as you're entering, but against all odds. Welcome. My name is Eden Ünlüata Foley, and I am the co-chair of the Events and Exhibitions Committee at the New Media Caucus. I am joining you from Chicago. I haven't been to CAA just yet. I wanted to just give a couple of notes. Each participant, we have 15 of them this evening, will be participating. Each one of them will get 6 minutes for their presentation. And those of you who are presenting, I do ask that you stay as tightly as you can to the 6 minutes. If you stay online at the end of the session, sort of 8:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central, we will be having a sort of an informal Q&A. Last year, there's a little bit of a request from that. As the session is going on, I do want to ask everyone to be careful about muting and unmuting. Also, during the session, as the artists are presenting, remember they just only have 6 minutes. So questions, please note them down. And at the end, you can send it, or after they present, you can send it to them directly. Instead of a webinar format, we have a little bit more sort of a Zoom meeting format to enable that kind of interaction. So without any delay. So let's start with our first presenter, Penny Molesso. Penny?
Hi.
Okay, so the floor is yours, Penny.
All right. Can everyone see that okay? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
My name's Penny Molesso. I'm an artist, writer, and educator currently based in Nebraska. Today I'm going to be talking about an immersive audio and video installation titled Spit Brimming with Futures. Spit Brimming with Futures expresses an urgent need to imagine stories about transgender autistic people that affirm our agency and autonomy amidst a political climate that weaponizes neurodivergence to delegitimize trans experiences. The American political rights vilification of transgender people is used to uphold structures of white supremacy and heteropatriarchy that become destabilized when rigid binary categories of gender are challenged. The political right has a vested interest in keeping trans people out of public view, thus weaponizing the internet's capacity for generating trans support networks and resources, and positing trans identity as a social contagion that is transmitted online. As a lens-based artist and image maker, I became interested in subverting contemporary photography's tendency towards prioritizing visibility as an outcome of trans representation. Visual representations of trans people are often co-opted to reinforce gender binaries, and their dissemination online can result in an increased violence against trans people. In addition, relying on visual representation underscores the faulty logic in Euro-American culture that seeing is equated with knowing, and that the photograph is an inherently truthful document. In order to reconfigure trans representation as embodied rather than visual, I turned to ASMR. ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. It refers to a tingling sensation that begins in the scalp and emanates down the neck and spine. The sensation is triggered by sounds, usually gentle whispering, tapping, and other soft tones. ASMR video content on social media platforms is an intimate technology, often involving personal attention and care. It fosters a connection between listener and creator that extends beyond the digital interface to produce bodily sensations. I found ASMR soundscapes to be a compelling way to ground the installation's trans narratives in physical sensations and audio-spatial presence, so that the spoken word resonates in the listener's body. This produces a representation of transness that is not grounded in visibility. Rather, it produces a haunting, a force that can be felt without ever being seen. The interactive installation featured an ASMR short film and 3 audio players that participants could listen to with headphones. Throughout the space, I also installed parabolic speakers, which localized sounds so that people could only hear the full audio if they stood directly underneath it. The sibilants in the audio bleed into the gallery space, producing a sound that resembles water droplets or rain. When participants passed underneath the speakers, they were able to hear the audio that was producing that effect. All of the audio pieces in the installation imagine lost worlds of T4T intimacy and safety. Stumbling upon the audio in the darkened gallery reflects the way trans people can find safety in being visible to each other, like a beacon of light or a soft hush of a lover after awakening from a bad dream. In the installation's short film, moving images are cut and rapidly sutured together in different orders to generate new relationships and nonlinear narratives. In Shimmering Images, Trans Cinema Embodiment and the Aesthetics of Change, Eliza Steinbach posits that the cinematic cuts and sutures between the visual and the spoken, between frames and between genres, are linking and relinking practices of transfiguration. Shimmering is present through the film's sutured footage and interchange between visual and auditory images. I mobilized this concept further by using star and soft mist filters on the camera lenses to create shifting and expanding light artifacts that visually represent the oscillation between passing and not passing, being one thing in one moment and something else in the next. Passing is not only tied to trans identity and an inability to fit easily into categories of masculine or feminine, but also as my identity as autistic, where I've been socialized to mask certain behaviors and traits in order to pass as neurotypical. The installation's audio references trans desire, intimacy, joy, and the possibilities of alternate worlding and creating portals. Rather than act as a visual representation, trans intimacy is rendered as an invisible yet tangible feeling, asking how will we carry each other in the dark. Spit Brimming with Futures imagines what a neurodivergent queer future could look like, where the categories of gender begin to dissolve and society, rather than neurodivergent people, is measured by its functionality in embracing non-dominant forms of communication, embodiment, and expression. So that's it for my presentation. My website is on the slide right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Amanda Stojanov. Amanda?
Hi everyone.
The floor is yours.
I'm going to share. Thank you. Can everyone see that? Okay, actually, I want to make sure I'm sharing sound. Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Amanda Stojanov. I'm an artist and professor at Monmouth University. I'm excited to be with all the artists today. Today I'll be talking about my project, A Woman Destroyed. My concept. So A Woman Destroyed is a performance that delves into the anger felt by femme or femme-identified individuals who have traversed the spectrum of female experiences, embracing, transforming, or relinquishing this identity, while frequently concealing relevant emotions. Through this digital reperformance of literature, I create a format for the expression and exploration of anger through digital tools. So the first performance of this series that I'm working on is a response to the monologue from Simone de Beauvoir's book, The Woman Destroyed. I performed this in my virtual skin with MetaHuman Creator and live on Twitch. Through this work, I'm seeking to create powerful and transformative experiences, collective experiences and series that honors the authenticity and lived experiences of individual people by performing and responding to literature, text, and expressing that anger and frustration. The audience members of the performance are invited to witness, communicate via Twitch, interact, and empathize with the performer's vulnerability and self-expression. My process began when I was accepted into a journal called Liminalities. And so this work was originally created for that journal. The softwares and systems I use are listed here. and the techniques include digital performance, creative writing, and 3D animation. First, I needed for this project to create my MetaHuman, and MetaHuman Creator allows me to create my own virtual skin based on some predetermined assets. Here's an example of how you can customize MetaHuman to the decimal. So for example, you can change the color of your gums, color of the plaque on your teeth, and the amount of it. This is true for most parts of the MetaHuman. And on the left side of the screen, you can see that there's a list of options to change elements of the face, hair, and body. This MetaHuman is my perception as best to my ability of my digital self. This next image is a preview of my digital world inside of Unreal Engine. And here you can see I'm using a backdrop behind the MetaHuman for the performance. I was inspired by an existing cover of the Women Destroyed book. So I went through variations of text exploring elements from this book cover. Some of these elements I felt captured the story that was told and parts that I wanted to bring out and uphold in the work I'm producing now. The change to the article from the to a is meant to expand the title's meaning from one person to many. And then the change in the word woman from A to X is to capture a broader definition of what it means to identify as a femme identifying person or a woman. This is an image of the whole system. So you can see here, this is in Unreal Engine, and my MetaHuman is also in this 3D space with the text image, and it's connected through a LiveLink app on my phone. So the LiveLink app is collecting my biodata, and if you can see a tiny orange line around the MetaHuman, it's actually showing that I have this live connection in the moment of the performance. And this means that I'm controlling the MetaHuman's facial expressions with my own face live. So shortly after I created this process, I used Twitch to perform. Twitch was a platform I was interested in using because I created this work in game design software that is also used in creating many of the games that are predominantly found on this platform. The gaming community is also very performative, and other audience members who might not already be on Twitch can easily access the virtual space through a link and view it there. The performance. The performance begins and ends with breathing, and in between the breathing, I perform excerpts of the monologue with my responses to the existing text. So I'm going to now play just 1 minute of the performance.
Shitheads. Huh, you nearly got me, but you didn't quite succeed. I'm not your scapegoat, your remorse. I've thrown it off. I've told you what I think. Each one of you had had their dose, and I'm not afraid of your hatred. I walk clean through it. They're killing me, the shitheads. I must win. I must. Ugh. I used to like the moon. It was like me. And they've mucked that up too. Like they muck everything up. But I'm not like the moon. Or I am. Or like, I'm so tired of explaining myself.
So if you want to get in touch with me, I have a Twitch channel, ASTOJANO, where I'll be posting future performances, invitations to workshops, or even to participate and create your own version of this. And it also has a link to the script, included my email and website here too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So next up we have Luke Rizzotto. Luke, the floor is yours.
Here we go. Started. All right. Can y'all see and hear me? Awesome. Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Luke Rizzotto, and I'm a digital media artist based in Reno, Nevada. I'm also a graduating MFA candidate from the University of Nevada, Reno. My work as a whole explores the unexplainable emotions experienced within liminal and unexpected landscapes. I do this through the creation of digital works and immersive installations. This project I am presenting here tonight, the server is unavailable at this time, please try again later, looks at the liminal experience of online multiplayer games and the digitally connected communities they create. Halo Reach was an online multiplayer first-person shooter with a large and fervent community over the years, allowing people to participate directly in a shared interest, either competing against one another or working collaboratively together. Despite this, after 12 years of online connectivity, developer 343 and publisher Microsoft sunsetted and shut down the online servers due to maintenance costs and to focus on newer games, severing the connections and friendships made over the years. Through this installation, I depict this loss of connection through two distanced nodes. One player is static, having lost the ability to go online and participate with others. Controller shattered and no longer functional. One player still remains, however, revealing the desire for connection is still present, even if no longer possible. This player can use the functioning controller to explore a Unity recreation of the once populous but now empty map Ford world, served as a blank canvas for players to create their own arenas and worlds, but now sits abandoned. Unlike the original map, which was perpetually set during the day, the space here is seen at sunset, both a reference to the term sunsetting used by the tech industry when retiring software, as well as the sublime yet ephemeral time of day that is experienced across the world every day. The sun never sets in this digital world, instead coloring the landscape with its soft light, suspended in time. These are displayed on a combination of new and old tech, from flat screen TVs to cathode ray tubes, in a sense serving to remind both of the period of time this online world was active for, as well as the different circumstances its players came from. This piece is an interactive installation, allowing the viewer to take control of this lone Spartan and explore the now empty landscape. Within this unreal realm, they can find translucent phantoms, what once were online players, that now haunt the current game world. These ghosts are scattered throughout a glitched landscape in a permanent state of falling apart after its disconnection from the server. When exploring the space, I am struck by a sense of liminality. Normally, this map would have been filled with players, shooting around and goofing off without a care in the world. Now, however, this map is eerily still. You can hear the sounds of the wind, water, and birds, added in by the developers. And walking around it feels like an odd mix between hiking in nature and playing a video game. This installation's layout changes according to the venue it's in, able to adapt, using new equipment or arrangements to best fit the architecture of the space it is in. Here, for example, is the layout used at the artist-run space, the Holland Project in Reno, in which the playable node is towards the front of the space, and the broken node is towards the back, the dark corner that is accessed by passing through a projection curtain that can be seen towards the right within the top left image here. In the iteration seen previously at the University of Nevada, Reno, they are in fact physically very close to each other. Show this. They are in fact physically very close to each other, but the gallery wall imposes a distance. They can only be fully viewed one at a time. What remains constant in any installation, though, the distance and obstruction between these nodes, separated by a combination of space and partitions, representing the ability of online communities to connect one another across the world, and also the precarity of these spaces in relation to corporate interests. This installation offers a space to wander around what may be considered a trivial video game world, but that offered a meaningful outlet and way to forge real lasting friendships. What can be further explored is the sense of loss that occurs when these communities are no longer seen as profitable, allowing a sort of mourning and reflection on this precarity. Sure, these players could move on to later Halo games, or even other shooter games, but many feel these newer games do not capture the same sense of wonder or camaraderie that the earlier Halo games did. As such, many of these people moved on with their lives, leaving these playful and creative spaces in the past, along with the communities that came with them. This liminal landscape offers the opportunity to ponder upon the complex arrays of emotions that arise from the loss of such an outlet. Thank you all for joining in and listening, as well as to Eden and the New Media Caucus for inviting me to participate in the showcase. It's been really exciting getting to put this together and share this work. I hope you all are able to cherish and foster the communities that bring you joy and happiness in your own lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Okay, next up, we have Mingyong. Mingyong, the floor is yours.
Here. All right, so I will screen share. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Mingyong, a new media artist and a PhD student from the University of California, San Diego. Today, I'm glad to be here and share my work, Domi Reverie with you all. Domi Reverie is an immersive real-time visual and audio experience, creating a microcosm that intertwines diverse realities and speculative futures. In this installation, two spherical domes, each harboring a glowing core, operate each other above an interactive landscape that mirrors our collective reality in real time. And one dome showcases authentic satellite time-lapse images of our Earth, revealing the beauty and scars. And the other dome offers AI-generated visions, depicting an unknown world that might be unspoiled paradise or further devastated wasteland. This juxtaposition challenges us to reflect on the blurry line between utopia aspiration and dystopia outcomes. Through this piece, I aim to explore the interconnectedness of realities, the tension between preservation and decay, and our role within this cosmic dance. In this intersection of art, technology, and environmental consciousness, we are invited to reflect upon our responsibility towards our shared home and the uncertain paths that lie before us. The inspiration for this project springs from my deep dive into Google Earth's time-lapse function, capturing 38 years of environmental changes. This exploration revealed a complex narrative of human interaction with the Earth, initially highlighting the negative impacts like climate change and deforestation. Yet, as I observed the transformation of landscapes, such as the urbanization of Chengdu, I recognized the nuanced reality of human progress. It became clear that these changes are not merely harmful, they reflect our innate drive towards advancement and a better life. This realization broadened my perspective, pushing me to consider a world where the line between positive and negative changes is not so clear-cut. This nuanced understanding led me to rethink the concept of domes as symbols not just for utopia, but also of dystopia, maybe, embodying the complex relationship we have within our planet. In my work, the domes represent our dual potential to protect and to harm, to create and to destroy. Inspired by this image, Buckminster's Fuller speculative cloud structures, I envision my domes floating over a landscape that reflects our current reality. This symbolizes our ongoing quest to balance human advancement with environmental stewardship, encouraging viewers to question and reimagine our collective futures. Based on my imagination, this structure embodies 3 layers: artificial synthetic reality, historical reality, and collective reality, all together to offer a multifaceted view of our world. Each layer engages with the viewer differently, sparkling a dialogue about our environmental footprint and echoes of our actions across realities. Here is the design of the system, which I aim for responding to my 3-layer reality analogy. One dome uses images from Google Earth, and the other is based on AI-generated images, and with a landscape on the ground reflecting the real dome's imagery, which is the world we live in. For creating the speculative reality, first, I conduct a LoRa fine-tune process for stable diffusion model based on the real satellite image dataset to ensure it can create similar aesthetics and link the image contents with the text description. Next, I work with ChatGPT to generate narratives across time. Then, using a prompt travel matrix, I create a similar time-lapse sequence of Google Earth to reflect a speculative location that is transforming across them. That's how the synthetic reality is born. The visual design, with auroras encircling the domes and the particles changing over time, symbolizes the fragile barrier between our current state and the potential futures. It's a reminder of the beauty and the peril in the paths we choose. Finally, utilizing Touch Designer, I brought this work to life as an immersive and interactive experience that challenges, inspires, and invites reflection on our collective impact and potential. I want to end up with this poem co-written by GPT and me. Breathe in the aura, pure illusions well. In its reflection, truth grow pale. A world untouched or a world scarred, the twin of ours, both soft and hard. And thank you for listening. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I love connecting with people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mingyong. Okay. Well, 1 second. Let me just stop the timer. Next up, we have Crystal Beiersdorfer. Crystal?
Hello, everyone. Let me just share my
Yours.
screen. Great, and everyone can see that? Fantastic. Thank you very much, Eden. I appreciate this. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Crystal Beiersdorfer, a new media artist and instructor based in Chicago. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce to you one of my projects, Floraverse. Floraverse stands as a WebXR environment designed for desktop exploration. In both this immersive digital space and my broader artistic practice, which is rooted in cyber-feminist perspective, I explore how technology shapes our understanding and expression of the body, fostering reflection on our virtual presence and digital legacies. Within the context specifically of Floraverse, our exploration revolves around themes of tranquility, virtual embodiment, user engagement, play, and nature. This virtual landscape serves a dual purpose, acting as a refuge for meditation and an escape from the rigors of daily life, all while inviting the user or player to immerse themselves in a world where the lines between reality and digital exploration blur with each interaction. Now, Floraverse blossomed during my participation in Loop Art Critiques last summer. Loop is a virtual residency that brings together artists for twice weekly 3-hour-long critiques. The culmination of these critiques was a month-long virtual exhibition in Loop's salon. I have included the URL to Loop if you'd like more information. I had such a great time during my month-long residency there, and I would be happy to share specific details if anyone is interested. The images you see here capture just a snapshot of the initial version of Floraverse, which emerged through a collaborative effort with the talented Chicago-based artist Galina Shevchenko, who actually met through Loop and since then have done other stuff in real life. Unfortunately, aside from pictures and video documentation, we couldn't archive that version, sparking my determination to relocate my part of the space elsewhere. My journey then led to NewArt.city, an impressive tool that I'm sure many of you are already familiar with. However, if you're not, it's a remarkable platform that empowers individuals to craft virtual environments and experiences directly within their browser window. It's incredibly user-friendly. I usually assign it in my classes. I highly recommend that you check it out. The process of transitioning Floriverse to this platform proved to be a fascinating exercise, shedding light on the unique capabilities and constraints of different WebXR platforms. As a result, prompting me to reflect deeply on the essence of this piece and its overarching objectives. Now, while working on this version in NewArt.city, my mind wandered back to my undergraduate days, which was almost a decade ago. Back then, I took a few contemporary art theory classes with Dr. Louis Zona. He's the executive director and chief curator at the Butler Museum of American Art in Youngstown, Ohio. It struck me how he constantly stressed the idea that art is a reflection of its time, both in concept and in medium. This concept really hit home as I reconstructed this piece, making me realize it originated during a rather stressful chapter in my life. At that point, I longed for a carefree space, a place to leisurely float and meander through a void adorned with oversized, vibrantly bright flower petals. Simply put, I just needed, and rather I still need, a dash of whimsy in my life as a place to rest for a moment before tackling daily stressors or making works that deal with more demanding concepts. And then as mentioned earlier, Floriverse delves into themes of tranquility, virtual embodiment, user engagement, play, and nature. Its primary objective, again, is to function as a digital sanctuary, offering a space for meditation and reprieve from the challenges of everyday life. As well as I also hope that everyone who looks at it, has a sense of childlike wonder and curiosity while exploring. Since this is an immersive environment that goes beyond mere observation. So please, when and if you have the time, go explore. I would love to hear about your experiences. I will post a link to the NewArt.city space in the chat, as well as my website. So if this project, my practice, or if you just want to talk about new media theory and art, as well as share resources, which is my absolute favorite thing to do, here is my contact information. You can also find me on most social media websites or platforms at Subtle Time. Yeah, I just want to thank NMC very much for this opportunity, and then also to thank all of you for giving me your time to hear about this project. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let me stop sharing. Give me 1 second, please.
Thank you.
Oh, there it is.
Next up, we have Jaimes Mayhew. Jamie?
Hello, can everyone see that all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just 1 sec while I do some stuff. Okay, my name is Jaimes Mayhew. I am an interdisciplinary artist and educator based in Houston, Texas. And in my work, I use GIFs, new media, sound, and installation techniques to trouble the long history of display and public spectacle of Chinese American women and femmes. An example of this history is Ah Fong Moy, the first Chinese lady, who was actively exhibited as a living exhibition from 1834 to 1850 before disappearing from record. My body, like Moy's body, has been on the receiving end of public spectacle, and the displays I utilize in my work function as a disruption to the ways my body has been viewed. When a beam of bright light hits the convex and polished surface, an image is reflected back onto the wall. This is a description of a magic mirror, an object from the Han Dynasty, and one that's synonymous with how Euro-America views China, both technically advanced and shrouded in mystery. I use the magic mirror as a way to describe my experience as a second-generation queer Chinese-American femme, and I use immersive installation to allow for room for exploration, creating mirroring images and reflections and refractions that involve multiple parts of the room. Like magic mirrors, the GIFs I create generate mirror images, revealing an alternate world that highlights the ways rituals are both private and public, and ways my body cannot fit into the impossibility of Eurocentric beauty standards. In marriage ceremony series, I play both groom and bride, the same exact hair and makeup. The only difference is the clothing, my actions mirroring each other until the bride takes both action and agency, subverting gender roles. In my work, I ask, what does it mean to be viewed as an object, to be fetishized and consumed? For Asian American femme bodies, it correlates with our experiences with violence from microexpressions to death. Gift entered my work around the same time as the March 16, 2021 Atlanta Spahr massacre, where 8 people were murdered, 6 of which were Asian women. It led me to think about the many attempts I made to assimilate into the hegemony of American culture, yet the assimilation is an impossible task as my body will always be viewed as perpetually foreign. Drawing from my mother's flawed knowledge regarding ancestral rituals, I create gifts that simulate these traditions as an alternative to assimilation. The missing moments or frames in a gift function the same way that traditions do when passed down generationally. They morph over time. In my work, I use imperfections and failure to demonstrate my inability to perform prescribed gender norms. I am explicitly performing for the camera at multiple stages of getting ready. I use drag to challenge perceptions of masculinity and femininity through references of Chinese opera and Tang Dynasty style makeup and clothing. Repetition in my gifts also refers to the transformation of time, the same way crypt time bends time to create more forgivable and flexible approaches for disabled bodies and minds. With this in mind, I both disrupt and critique the ways Chinese American femme bodies are objectified through both an Orientalist and an ableist lens. The lotus foot gift references foot binding, a Chinese custom banned in 1912 that bound young girls' feet to conform to social norms. In the way the foot transforms, the lotus becomes clear and then disappears as if nothing happens, which relates to treatments for chronic disabilities, providing a sense of normacy. Yet in this gift, the foot never fits perfectly onto the shoe, and the constant loop never relents. The foot is in constant transformation. I uploaded a past iteration of it to YouTube, and I was immediately notified that this work was in community violation. YouTube's algorithm viewed this GIF of my foot, judged a part of my body, and recognized the Chineseness of the objects and patterns and decided to flag it. Like photography, algorithms are not neutral. Their code are written by human beings and follows parameters set by countless videos a human being deemed to be in violation. By seeing this GIF as a violation of policy, this directly points to Euro-America's over-sexualization of Asian American women and femme bodies. Orientalism is not in the past and instead is still pervasive and exists in normalized ways. Through installation and projection mapping, my gifts both reflect and refract within the space, alternatively obscuring and challenging the viewer's perception. My image is distorted by reflective surfaces in my work, denying the viewer the ability to consume and objectify me. I use projection mapping as a way to distort and disrupt the images of my work because projection mapping shapes videos onto objects and other common surfaces. It lends itself to speak about displays and being displayed. In the installation, I project parts of my body on reflective surfaces that multiply my image across the space. This creates ephemeral and ghostly after images, a pervasive haunting of the many versions of my body. The displays I utilize in my work not only function as disruption to the ways my body has been viewed, but points to how Chinese diaspora has survived through acts of assimilation as a method of disidentification and survival strategies. The acrylic sculptures themselves reference historical Chinese objects and display stands, as well as cheap imitations found in Chinatowns as a method of envisioning new connections of my ancestral roots. In my work, I'm creating an interruption to these narratives by critiquing the power structures that render my body as a displayed ornament. And though I'm referencing Chinese historical objects and current experiences within Chinese diaspora, my work is future-facing. I'm creating an alternative place not to just exist freely and safely, but also to have clear modes of joy, humor, and play. Thank you. And I will leave my email in the chat.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Next up, we have Eva Davidova. Eva?
Hello, thank you
Hi,
so
the floor
much
is
for
yours.
this invitation. I hope you can hear me well, and I'm going to share my screen. So I'm an interdisciplinary artist with focus on new media, and I explore the technological subconscious and the political implications of technologies on society in the context of global crisis like climate change and war. The project I'm talking about today is Intentions, Transfer and Disappearance 2. It has had several iterations. The first one was just the classical animation, but it included an AI-generated model, and it explored the human expressions and how they have been completely overwritten by behavior of corporations, and have been imposed on us as norm. The interactive installation Intentions, Transfer and Disappearance 2 addresses the hijacking of our emotions and the potentials of glitch and failure to subvert the underlying purposes of an emotional technology. It explores the failure in identity representation as possible means of protest and the profoundly false publicness of public space. Neither cold nor objective data becomes public space in a way of vertical penetration, where our mental spaces are seized, exploited, and ruptured or excluded. Nora Khan, an important and brilliant writer on technology, says that designers of technologies love to propagate the myth of a just world in which people always get what they deserve. In erasing the messier and unsolvable elements of social experience that shape subjecthood, technology attempts to frame us as clean and uncomplicated. We become reducible, mapped by a programmable set of traits with defined singular meaning. Our digital choices and consumption patterns give a portrait of who we are. We're easily represented by our avatars. The next iteration of this work was an interactive installation which involved face recognition software, Max MSP that was doing the heavy lifting of the programming, and the proto AI Wakinator, famous for work of artists with music and visuals, that in this case I used in an unconventional way to program video file to become an imitator of human expression. In this exercise of the imitation of human expression, many people were trying to help the AI, so they ended up adjusting their facial expression to fit a more easier to digest by the AI expression. But some, like the girl on the bottom left of the slide, was completely determined to break the prediction, and she managed it. In this sense, my work has been geared towards destabilizing the idea that technology is set and it's there for us to use. I welcome always the intervention of the audience. And in 2020, we did a performance which included the audience as input, but also as a direct participant in what was going on in the screen. Here, the performer Marisa Delano is both making expressions and filming herself so the AI can recognize her face. And on the other hand, the audience was trying to imitate the performer, and then the AI was trying to imitate the output. to conclude, this project has become much wider in its scope, and from human emotion, I have taken the project into the realm of human motion. I do think that both are very related, and they both inform our behavior, and the more homogenized the technologies become, the more classified we are, the more I think we have not only the possibility but the responsibility to intervene. This performance happened actually tonight, so it is fresh from the oven. Oh, sorry. Technology. So the woman who went into the performance space was member of the audience, and the piece is called Audience as Virus.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and looking forward to seeing more of everybody's work.
Please put your email and website into the chat. So next up, we have Rebecca Forstater. Rebecca?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. I'll
Yours.
start my screen. Hi, I'm Rebecca Forstater. I'm an artist and assistant professor at Wofford College. It's nice to be here this evening with all of you. Before we get into looking at my most recent body of work, I want to talk with you a bit about my perspective and approach that I take in my research in studio. I think the best way to start with introducing you to my artistic practice is through this evolving graph I like to whip out. I work with what I know, what's directly in front of me, and how it's constantly changing and altering daily life in little mundane but incredibly significant. I, like many of you, was raised on the internet. I have an unavoidable interest in the aesthetic of internet culture, but more specifically in the potential of user-generated content and peer-to-peer exchanges in digital spaces as a powerful method of communication that increasingly defines our belief systems. So I began the body of work training camp right when that Silicon Valley AI rat race started. At that point, I set out to try any and all AI software I could find, ones that were user-friendly and ones that were being shared on GitHub. I was specifically focused on text to visual and audio outputs. I quickly experienced the super obvious flaws that you probably experienced with AI generators, problems with hands and mouths. But there were less obvious weaknesses embedded in the software that was actively being used by nearly everyone on the internet at that moment. Ones that were carefully masking biases and spoon-feeding them like perfect PR statements. One particular application, Dream Fusion, visualized this in a strange way. In the fall of 2022, Dream Fusion was experiencing what was called the Janus problem. This error repeated a face multiple times on any prompt of a living creature. While the internet was trying to solve this problem, I held on to this visceral image, the inability to depict the roundness of a living being or experience. To me, this error was a perfect visual metaphor for what was happening in all of the AI generators at that moment. Because the models are trained on user data, think like text and images circulating through Reddit, there are biases within that data set. You can think about the results of these models in a simple way as an average of digital artifacts. When I think about the internet and the data that's exchanged, I think about it as simultaneously seductive and scary. It mirrors and often exacerbates the darkest ideologies in our current culture in small and big ways. So expectedly, AI software currently struggles to describe and visualize the complexity of diverse human experiences in the same way society does. So I thought, what does it look like when we ask AI to remember? Specifically, what if I ask the training models to contextualize the recent past, given the algorithm's present pool of information? Using pop culture as a marker of time, Training Camp examines the creation of public memory in the current AI wind tunnel, utilizing pretty much every AI tool available to me at the time of making. I focused in on one singular event, the Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake Super Bowl 38 halftime show controversy. The Super Bowl 38 halftime performance, where Janet Jackson's nipple was exposed by Justin Timberlake on live TV to 100 million people, was one of the first viral videos and origin of the term wardrobe malfunction. The narrative of the Super Bowl performance, an event deeply intertwined with race, gender, and politics, serves as an example of biases embedded in our digital social consciousness. The visual results of the software highlight the tendency to scapegoat controversial aspects of history where societal errors are conveniently overlooked without sincere attempts at accountability. In this exhibition, the two video works function as objects in relationship to each other and the other works in the room. The screen on the wall contextualizes the room, where an AI cloned voice of myself attempts to get answers from cloned voices of Justin Timberlake and Les Moonves through generated scripts and videos.
What is a wardrobe? What is a wardrobe malfunction?
The infamous wardrobe malfunction. It's a term that gained quite a bit of attention after the 2004 Super Bowl halftime show incident involving Janet Jackson and myself. During our performance, wardrobe malfunction occurred when a part of Janet Jackson's costume came loose, revealing more than was intended.
Pretend you are Les Moonves explaining the term wardrobe malfunction.
I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill that request. Les Moonves is a former television executive who faced allegations of sexual misconduct and harassment during his time at CBS. Engaging in impersonation of real individuals involved in such controversies could be considered insensitive and inappropriate. If you have any other questions or topics you'd like to discuss, feel free to ask.
So the screen on the ground is a karaoke setup where viewers have the option to drown out the cloned sounds of Justin and Les through Janet Jackson's song Together Again. I view the outcomes of each prompt that resulted as images, videos, audios, and objects in this body of work as renderings of our collective digital memory. These visualizations take the form of peculiar amalgamations riddled with errors. They reveal fleeting and often performative instances of progress entangled with societal mistakes, constantly transforming into new iterations. Thank you all so much for your time today.
Thank you, Rebecca. So next up, we have Rob Spahr. Rob?
Oh, great, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to turn on speed.
The sound is just a little bit muddled.
Okay, let me turn it up a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Spahr. I'm an interdisciplinary artist who produces code-based auto-generated art, live art performance, and drawings and paintings and sculptures. But all of my work examines the relentless flow of the internet, the information on the internet that quickly becomes digital leftovers, to reveal that we don't simply consume media, but are consumed by it. What you see in front of you is a snapshot of one of my automated works that's called Sand Dune Craft after Francis Bacon. But first, as you look at a series of these images, I'd like to share with you some fragments of text from my journals. To synchronize our heartbeats, there was so much broken and fragmented information to consume, so the task was to build something from the leftovers. This is Cruft. We're in an internet-induced collective hallucination, and it's toxic. The internet has the ability to provide freedom by connecting us at great distances, democratizing the world's knowledge and facilitating disruption and resistance to systems of power. It can also simultaneously provide control by restricting and regulating our thoughts and actions, while propagating misinformation, fear, divisiveness, surveillance, and repression. Post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic growth, realignment. My art practice creates code-based automated art that explores the nature of the internet, its strengths and failures, producing what's been called a post-internet art that reflects the network's effect on our society and culture. The internet is the raw material I appropriate and I remix by writing computer code that's automated and runs on a 24/7 schedule, producing a form of auto-generated collage that I call cruft. The resulting artwork allows me to investigate broader issues of traditional concepts such as stillness, repetition, overload, uncertainty, and loss. Cruft is variable and it's fragile and it's impermanent. In his book, After the Future, Franco Berardi refers to, quote, the slow cancellation of the future, which got underway in the 1970s and 1980s, end quote. He's referring not to a direction of time, but rather a psychological perception. Berardi also suggests that we're stuck between globalization and global war, between identity and capital, and we seem to be incapable of producing radical change. Berardi is describing my own sense of time. No forward movement, no progress, standing still. Our culture industry is locked in an endless cycle of nostalgic reboots. Nothing really dies. It only comes back as a zombie in a new package. New technologies dislocate our ideas of time and place. Smartphones encourage us not to be here and now, while allowing us to always be simultaneously present and absent. No sense of time, no sense of place. So I make art in response to my experience of not being able to shake off that feeling of a slow cancellation of future. Art can interrupt our hallucination and offer us moments of stillness and introspection. Here's a snapshot of a recent sand dune cruft. Sand dune cruft is generated 38 minutes past every hour using its source fragments of text from John Milton's poem Paradise Lost, recent text from Fox News, and images of female bodies from a website called kindgirls.com. This work was inspired by a painting by Francis Bacon in 1983 entitled Sand Dune. I'm interested in Francis Bacon's use of color, the biomorphic shape that is a hairy body while also being a landscape as it leaks out of and escapes from this rectilinear space. What was an avant-garde practice in the 1920s, such as photo montage, or even a revolutionary act of collage in the early 20th century, we now take for granted. We all use computer operations of cutting, pasting, sorting, searching, and finding of small bits of text, images, and videos every day. Our entire life experience is a series of fragments that we process, sort, and arrange into a hallucination of a unified experience. I've been creating various versions of cruft since 2003. My art practice reflects this fragmentary life experience by relentlessly scraping the web for material, selecting and arranging the fragments, which then produces over time an archive of thousands of images and videos and text. The computer code runs on the server at a designated time. It goes out onto the web, harvesting images, text, or video, depending on its instructions, and it reaches into the stream of information flowing through the internet, taking a snapshot that reflects the moment of its creation. The quantity of cruft I've produced over the years creates the same sense of overload we all now feel daily in our lives. This reinforces the feeling that we don't simply consume media, but are consumed by it. I want to thank you all and the New Media Caucus for allowing me to share my work tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is young Shao.
Hi, thanks for having me. Let me share the screen. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shao. I am glad to join this virtual showcase. I am a new media artist living in New York, and I am a current artist fellow at Gallatin Wet Lab at New York University. I create interactive experience mainly using physical computing algorithm computation methods. I combine geological knowledge into ecological narratives, mediating the complex relationships among human, non-human beings and the earth. And today I'd like to present my recent project, Left to Feel That Wind. How to understand a lake, a saltwater lake, an inland lake that doesn't have an outlet. The Great Salt Lake is the largest saltwater lake in the United States and 8th largest terminal lake in the world. People call it Bathwater. In the winter of 2022, I traveled to the Great Salt Lake in Utah, which had receded to a historically low water level, lost 2/3 of its volume, leaving half of its bed exposed in the air. It is facing the most extreme ecological crisis. I walk along the shoreline of the road, behold the mountains, the basalt, and the water, which seems at least a mile away. The form created from the water flapped the shore, sweep eastward, calling the wind. I can see a pinkish hue lining the water and hear the sound of waves melting with the gusts. All that remains is wind and dust. Not far away from the Great Salt Lake, the Bonneville Salt Flats stretched out in front of me as I drove along the interstate highway, I-80. It is an invaluable geological conservation, yet it is more famous from the racing speed competition held here every year. Layers of massive salt crystals have accumulated over time, and 90% of mineral on the surface where I stand upon is sodium chloride, the table salt, the same substance we humans consume every day. So how the Earth evolved itself in the immeasurable passage of time, in the complicated interactions, in the energetic and turbulent processes. The Great Salt Lake has maintained its balance in the past 2,000 years. However, it has shrunk over the last 5 decades. The Anthropocene mark is evident not only in the strata contains artificial materials like plastic, but also in the new shoreline of the salient lake. Geologically, what today is called the Great Salt Lake is a remnant of Lake Bonneville, a Pleistocene lake that filled and dried over 60,000 years. Its recent decline began 13,000 years ago at the end of Ice Age, and it fell to about the level of modern Great Salt Lake around 2,000 years ago. The salt flat, spanning over 100 miles, are the bed of ancient Lake Bonneville. So the grand time-space melts my mind, how the salt and the water meet and separate in the countless moments, crystallize and dissolve, forming unique landscape that display their ethereal beauty. I want to create something that brings the land and the time back to the city, a feeling and emotion about standing upon the surface of the earth. So Left Feel That Wind is an installation that explores the perception of time stretched across both geological and human scales, through the lens of transformation between the Great Salt Lake and Lake Bonneville. So here is a short video about my project. In this project, the Great Salt Lake, depicted by a computer numerical control system, captured its lowest water level in November 2022. It is served as a reminder of the collapse of the salt desert ecosystem. The water permeates into the landscape of the salt and the sand, gradually evaporating under the gallery's climate and leaving a temporal trace signifying the human impact on the environment. And people tell me that the exhibition room has a smell of saltiness that is so dry and unforgettable. It is the smell of the Great Salt Lake, a sense of dryness mingled with salt that differentiates from the smell of an ocean. Thanks for your attention and feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Michael Liu. Michael?
Hi. Okay. Hi. Good evening. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael. My pronouns are he, him. I would like to introduce myself and my work a bit today. Thanks to everyone at CIA and the New Media Caucus for this amazing opportunity. So I am a game maker and a media artist. Born as an anchor baby in Michigan and grew up in southwestern China. I spend my time teaching and making computer games about diaspora, vulgarity, digital liturgy, and anything else that doesn't fit with the gamer culture. I focus my practice on making short and eccentric video games or working with the game engine simply. I'm a resident artist of the UCLA Game Lab, currently teaching game studies, game design, and media studies at Occidental College. This work you have been seeing on screen is titled Juvenoia, and I was honored to receive the Justin Morrissey Award for it last year from the New Media Caucus. It was made with my own sculpted figures and landscapes, scanned into the computer as an homage to my countryside hometown back in China that no longer exists. Being an immigrant in the West means killing the part of you grown from your home, your history, your language, your past, your future. In retrospect, this work was an X-ray of my dear home crushed by hegemonic modernization and neoliberal capitalism. Juvenoia lives in the limbo of it all, as do I. Though made in a game engine, it is not a game, not even a zero-player game, unless I want to call it so. This work was made with a mixture of media, drawing 3D models, animated shaders and particle effects, random computational systems, and photogrammetry of tiny sculptural characters and sets of made and painted by hand. I would like to quickly show you two older games I made a few years back, Daystark and Asteroid Orchard Griven Cities, AOG for short. These are super short games that you could play under 30 minutes and are not particularly noteworthy on their own. But I bring them up here following my previous point on experimenting with the medium of video games. Daystark came first. It is an alternative walking simulator where you rapidly alternate between two keys to mimic the act of walking/running. It's a game about how my grandmother and her 8 sisters carried the family on their backs through famine and political turmoil. Same is true for many other Chinese families, even though you never find statues of them. This game may not have past art historic references, but it does have generational memories that are arguably more important. AOG came second. I made it during my spare time working. It's a short sci-fi graphic novel about an Asian farmer, who you can't really tell is Asian, working on an asteroid farm in the future, managing robots, being exploited by Elon Musk of the future. There really isn't much grandiosity or scheme I could boast for these games, even if I wanted to, except for this embarrassing yet encouraging comment I got on itch.io, which I highly recommend every game maker to upload everything you make there. Here are a couple more documentations of the game. I'd like to finish today's showcase with my latest work that I completed last year, Cyberside Picnic. The title inspired by Roadside Picnic, the original novel to one of my favorite films. Cyberside Picnic is a eulogy for the Siberian commonplace that just eluded us, a love letter to a lost future of alternative video games, delete and overwrite. These are just some work in progress images that you see. The game is structured in 8 chapters, each containing 8 text adventures in different experimental forms and 8 twisted alternative mini-games that follow. The player plays as a worker tasked with maintaining and assessing the efficiency of an AI controlled by a big corporation. Splintering and reconfiguring a decaying library of video games, the player explores the fragmented terrain of our collective cyberspace through conversations with their responsibility and partner, hence the AI brain, uncovering who or what is really behind this algorithm, and the lethargy we all share by navigating a multitude of updated, quote-unquote updated, nostalgic games and shifting text adventures. Here are a few more screenshots from the actual finished game. And here are some pictures from when you actually get to install and exhibit a game in the gallery. Pretty rare experience still. This game was an honorable mention of student games at IGF this year. I wasn't expecting it because I sort of wrote and made it to help with my own mental health, swarmed by AIs and social medias and the internet as we all are. I'm glad to mention that amidst all these other amazing games made by large groups of people. And that's it for my showcase today. Here's my website and my email. Feel free to contact me if any of that seemed interesting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Please be so kind to put your website information in the chat. Next up, we have Jaimes Mayhew. James, floor is yours. James, the sound is not coming through.
How's that?
Much better. Thank you.
Great. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. My name is Jaimes Mayhew. I'm an intermediate artist and educator currently based in Vermont, and I teach at University of Vermont. I work in many media, including digital art, video, fibers, and drawing. And today I'm sharing a project called the Different Horizon Atlas, which is a series of drawings of queer utopias that are made collectively with different groups of people. Queer speculation and envisioning utopia illuminates the current livelihood of 2S LGBTQAI+ people, revealing the desires that underscore resilience in the face of systemic and intersecting oppressions. While lacking support elsewhere, queer people learn the sophisticated craft of creating small utopian spaces within communities to imagine the possibility of a different world beyond the way things are. Foucault writes that the space created when envisioning utopia, where one is in the real world and sees themselves reflected in the mirror of the utopia, is a heterotopia. These heterotopias in turn unveil the nuances of the real world. Using visual art and building in the fields of socially engaged art and artist maps, this work is a tool for reimagining and opening up our understanding of 2S LGBTQAI+ people's experiences through community-based work. So I'm going to show you a few of the maps today. So there's 5 maps in the current iteration of this atlas, and I'm working on creating more with some artists this spring. This is Elder Pride Island, which was created with Beth Hare, Cheryl Parham, Lewis Hughes, Monty Ephraim, and Tina Jones, who are all a group of queer elders that I met working in Baltimore, where I used to live over the course of a couple of years. So the way that I usually run these workshops is I'll meet up with a group of people. We kind of brainstorm, what does your utopia look like? I encourage people to contradict each other, to use a yes and kind of improv comedy way of brainstorming, because the idea is that these are imaginary, and it doesn't matter if there's contradiction. So for example, on this island, only people who are 55 years and older are allowed. And also anybody who wants to live there is allowed. And both of those things can be true because we don't really have to worry about logistics when it's imaginary. The elders were, the thing that they were most excited about was having free healthcare and at the same time having no disease. And those two things contradict, but also make sense for a group of people that were, in the forefront in the height of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. So go to the next map. So this next one, I work with other artists to also draw maps for the atlas. So this was drawn by an artist named Foster Santiago, and it was imagined by Foster and his tia Eileen. This is a map of a trans utopia in Puerto Rico. It's a pretty amazing story of these, two trans people and their family that had been sort of alienated from each other, and they found each other and sort of imagined a utopia together that includes lots of portals and all kinds of wonderful stories within it. This is Planet Rooted that was imagined by Dr. Kalima Young, Timalik Coleman, and Blair Franklin. We're all members of a collective in Baltimore called the Rooted Collective. And this is a planet that is for Black, queer, and trans people. I did all of the visuals for this because there wasn't a visual artist in the group, but worked through several iterations to make sure that this was the planet that they wanted for themselves. This is the old Earth down here below. This is where everybody lives, is sort of like in the crown of the tree. There's portals everywhere that provide anything that you want. House music that emanates from the middle of the branch or the middle of the tree. And you can go and visit your ancestors in the middle of the earth right here. This is called Somewhere on Turtle Island Island. The poetry and drawing is by an artist named Jess McPherson, and this was all imagined by a group of two-spirit people that includes Jess McPherson, Maureen Zieber, and Joshua Hudson. This is an image that was taken from the inside of a rotted tree stump. Because Jess was really, when she drew this, was really thinking about a place that isn't a place, or how a place that isn't a place could look like an island or a place like that. And the last one is Transylvania that I drew and was imagined by Mally Devereaux and Jerry Phillip, who are both trans housing activists in Baltimore that work to make sure that trans people have housing. So, they wanted this to be a place where anybody could live and everybody was welcome, but only Black trans people could own property, which I thought was really interesting way to think about a utopia. There's free healthcare, a worship center, and lots of other features. So thank you for your time. You can visit a Different Horizon Atlas to see more of the project.
Thank you, James. Next up, we have Michael Covello and Elizabeth Schneider.
Hi.
Hello, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. We're really happy to be here. We're going to talk about one of our animations, Hold Me Down. To start, we're an artist collaborative who create paintings, installations, and animations. My name's Elizabeth Schneider, and this is my partner, Michael Covello. The project we're sharing with you today is an animation created with traditional and digital techniques. And Michael, you're going to start out just telling how we started with our idea for this particular project.
Yeah, we've always had our eyes fixed on outer space, and it's manifested in a couple different ways over the years. Around the time we started this, we were talking to a few of our aeronautical engineer friends. We have a few of them with SpaceX, and they were they're always sharing these newfangled technologies and things that they would get really excited about, but were kind of mystical to us. And at the same time, we were also reading this book, a fiction book about a muralist who's an astronaut in outer space, changing and rearranging the spaceship to look more like home as they go on this adventure. And I guess we were thinking a lot about the aesthetics of outer space, and it's like everything is always bland and gray and like colorless and boring. And it's like that's also this really masculine and militaristic language, and it's also this really functional language. So I guess we just started thinking about how all of that comes at the expense of these more emotional or spiritual things tied to humanity, and how there's this loss of, how a memory or an emotion or a story might get visualized, and how that might relate to this journey in outer space. So we decided we would have designed spacecrafts, fictional story-based spacecrafts that might look like our home, a place that we might live in. And we got 3 kids. Our house is chaos, full of color and energy and light, and it's a mess, and there's patterns and textures everywhere. And so for us, like, we were visualizing it that way, and it was fun and it was humorous, but it also became something was like stewing under the surface that felt a bit heavier than that too. Like that was about inclusivity and something more culturally rich as it might relate to space travel.
And then once we had that setting for this animation, we started to develop our protagonist, who's supposed to be this remarkable woman that comes from a really difficult past. And we envisioned her as this first-gen college graduate. And so a lot of this became a character study on how a human deals with barriers, or with the imposter syndrome, or with overcompensating. So she needed to be a really strongly voiced character who takes care of business, kind of isolates herself from people. But because of that, she kind of misses the bigger picture of what she's doing and why she's doing it.
And I guess for us, that bigger picture became a really exciting part of the narrative for the animation, and this idea of progress versus regress. And that I think we all like the idea of progress, and that we think it fixes something, but that sometimes stepping back or slowing down is the way to move forward, the best way to move forward. Doing less, consuming less, asking for less. That could be a solution to ecological disaster, but we just don't want to do it for some reason as a society. And I get why. But there's this idea of shrinking yourself down to get closer to the earth and the magic of that and the importance of that. But that in a lot of ways, the Anthropocene, which is like really scary, obviously, and like existentially threatening, it's also a money-making thing, right? It's a money-making force in our culture, and progress is tied to getting more. And as we get more, we distance ourselves from the world, from the earth.
And we really wanted to highlight this aspect of the story by adding a second character, which is this disembodied voice, and it serves as a foil to our protagonist. And we made her this mother who speaks with the sort of knowledge that can be almost understood as like an anti-knowledge. It's not this peer-reviewed academic STEM-centered ideology, but really it's someone's like anecdotal account of feeling connected to the soil and the earth and being frustrated by their daughter campaigning for this impractical type of knowledge in outer space as the planet around them is slowly getting destroyed. And so I'm just going to show a little bit of the animation so you can see how all these ideas kind of came together in the final piece.
They told me there was someone on the phone. They said it was my mother. My mother? On the phone? We are in outer space, halfway to Mars. She's dead. I followed the trail of blinking lights to the cockpit, and then I saw her. Not on the phone, and not like I remembered her, but sort of everywhere. She was dispersed, disembodied, assimilated into the machine. She spoke to me.
I'm part of the universe now. It's taken me a long time to get back to you, to find you. I thought you'd come to me, but you're lost.
I know we're running a little bit behind, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But thank you guys so much for sharing your work with us, and thanks for allowing us to be here to share ours.
Thank you. So next up, we have Roopa Vasudevan. Roopa?
Hi, thank you so much. Let me just share my screen really quick. For some reason, can you see my screen? It keeps saying that it's paused. Okay, there we go. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight, and thanks to the New Media Caucus for organizing. It's been really amazing to hear about the incredible work that's being done by the rest of the presenters. I've really appreciated and learned a lot from being here. My name is Roopa Vasudevan, and I'm a new media artist and researcher investigating the ways that humanity shapes and is shaped by technological systems. I'm an assistant professor in the art department at UMass Amherst. And today I'm presenting my work, Requiem for the Early Internet. The first version of this work was created in 2022, and I'm currently working on developing a revised iteration that reaches a wider audience, which I'll return to at the end of this presentation. But I just want to start by naming something that I've seen come up in a lot of the presentations today, and I think we've all been seeing in recent years, particularly among members of Gen Z. An embrace of what is often termed the Y2K aesthetic, or the fashion, visual, and cultural trends of the early 2000s. Searching for Y2K on really any platform brings up myriad images and videos evoking the time period. So this TikTok screenshot that I took today has 2 million search results for this phrase. And there's a nostalgic, almost idealistic tinge to the way that this time period is discussed, especially in contrast to the contemporary moment. And likely owing to the pessimistic mood around technology these days, there is a particular utopian focus on the nascent and developing technologies of the early 2000s, an attempt to grasp onto the now naive seeming idea that technological possibility was limitless, that placing cyber in front of anything made it futuristic, that computers could only lead us to bigger and better places. And as somebody who actually was a teenager and young adult during that period, I turned 16 years old in the year 2000, this trend at once makes me feel horribly old and makes me reflect on the unique positioning of members of my generation. We were the first to truly come of age on the internet. We were lucky enough to have seen and participated in network spaces at a time when they truly did provide connection between people. Facebook, before it became a fount of mis and disinformation. LiveJournal, when it still offered the possibility of tight and intimate community. MySpace, when it was a place where musicians and artists could actually have their work seen without needing to game an algorithm to do so. Meme accounts and websites and articles catering to the elder millennial often revel in the nostalgia around this period. Back in my day experience that longs for the wonder and excitement of getting online and finding community in ways that weren't possible before. Requiem for the Early Internet began as a site-specific installation in the backyard of Space 1026, an artist-run gallery in Philadelphia, which is where I was based up until the middle of last year. The work, which is still up today, repurposes the reclaimed benches in the backyard, originally constructed for Rittenhouse Square, and which still contained the grooves and recesses for donation and memorial plaques. Working within the constraints of these indentations, I designed and laser cut new memorial plaques out of brightly colored mirrored acrylic, which pay tribute to the fallen sites and online spaces of the early internet era, the places and experiences that didn't survive big tech's ascent and the advent of the smartphone and are relegated to the recycle bin of internet history. Each plaque contains a scannable code, which links to a mobile-optimized eulogy website. The sites use or recreate digital interfaces and visual language from the early internet era to reflect on why these things were so meaningful to us back then and why we miss them today. So for example, this video demonstrates the experience of scanning the plaque for AOL Instant Messenger, which leads to a conversation between my present social media handle and my past AOL Instant Messenger screen name. The user is tasked to advance the conversation, which reveals itself to be a meditation on the away message, the ability to remove yourself from online space and come back later, which is all but vanished in this current always on, always connected moment. I created 6 plaques total for this version for AOL Instant Messenger, MySpace, GeoCities, Napster, the dial-up modem, and the Blink and Marquee HTML tags. Because the work is small and presents itself in an unexpected place, and because the tech element is not immediately obvious, the piece offers space for discovery and contemplation. Like much of my art practice as a whole, there are several layers to be peeled back and explored over time, creating a multifaceted work that invites engagement from viewers in a variety of contexts and over a longer period. So on one level, this project is a fun, relatable exercise in embracing nostalgia, a visual version of deep diving into an archive, of remembering the person that you used to be when you depended on and loved these spaces. But on another, the work is an attempt to help us connect to the optimism that we felt in that early internet era while we are mired in the pessimism of today's online ecosystem. What have we forgotten or discarded in the name of technological innovation that in retrospect maybe wasn't the right choice to make? Who's gotten left behind and excluded? How might we model new versions of online space on a time when it was easy to create a niche and feel a sense of belonging? Requiem for the Early Internet attempts to capture the optimism of our online past in the hopes that it might enable us to envision what we want to see more of in the future. And so just to wrap up, I'll speak briefly about some plans I have in progress for the work, which I'm currently putting into motion. So the first is harnessing geographical specificity. So mimicking the placement of plaques or monuments by installing them in sites or places with deep historical connection to the people and technologies mentioned. I'm also working on expanding on the number of eulogies included, broadening to other sites, experiences, or activities beyond the 6 that I explored in the first version. And finally, I'm producing an accompanying zine, which incorporates my research for this project on a much deeper level than I'm able to in the artwork itself. And so with that, I'm just about at time, so I'll wrap up. I'll drop my information in the chat, but thank you all so much for listening. And again, it's been such a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roopa. And lastly, we have Yuwen Huang. The floor is yours.
Okay, can you see the screen? Okay, thank you for having me. My name is Yuwen, currently a graduate student from School of the Art Institute of Chicago in Art and Technology Department. And today I'm going to talk about a project that uses blockchain features as the medium and as part of the concept. My project referenced to historic work. In 2016, a Chinese conceptual artist, Jie He, he drew a circle on the ground and proclaiming that the person who stands in the circle is an artist, as an attempt to break the boundaries of the artist's work. In the 1962 street artworks of another artist, Abdul Greco from Argentina, he drew a circle around people and objects in the street, and proposing the idea that art is all around us, not just in the gallery. So these 2 history works led me to my project. I bring Jie ideas into the digital art world. Here on the left is the main part of the work, a type of interactive website interface, a decentralized contract based on the Ethereum blockchain. This platform democratized the concept of the artist, allowing every participant to claim their artist identity. Participants use their wallet address, and after paying a small transaction fee, their artist identity is recorded on the blockchain. While the project leads on technology to strive for inclusivity and fairness. The project intentionally raised questions about privilege and access to technology. In addition to the main work, there are also 4 other parts to this project. The Artist Manifesto, which is also the campaign of the NFT as a kind of proof of attendance, the white paper, and the physical installation. So each interaction with the website results in the creation of an NFT, serving as a permanent token of participation. The NFT was designed as a permanent souvenir to serve as proof of participation. And each NFT presents a different sentence from the Artist Manifesto, along with a unique graphic. And here you can see the manifesto on the left. At the right are some NFT examples and the web page when getting the NFT. In this way, receiving the NFT is much like pulling an answer from a divination book, such as the Book of Answers. After the audience enter the circle, they will access a portal where they can build a manifesto along with their own NFT on OpenSea, and bridging their personal experience with the collective narrative. So this aspect of the project aims to create a dialogue between the participants and the decentralized application, and prompting the audience to consider the questions of who can be an in-circle artist and what is required for to become one. Why the manifesto engage with the questions surrounding the in-circle artists? The white paper attempts to address the other questions in the project, typically used to explain the products and techniques in financial Ethereum contracts and products. And I decided to adopt the white paper to offer insight in the thinking behind my project's core concepts, such as the use of NFTs within the blockchain landscape. In addition to the written components, the project also includes a physical installation called the Circle Gate, which draws inspiration from the Moon Gate. It often seen in traditional Chinese gardens. This gate symbolizes ancient methods of entering imaginary worlds. The physical installation of the Circle Gate marks the virtual art space of the decentralized application, and it symbolizes the transition from the material to the digital realm, emphasizing the theme of transcending traditional artist boundary. So in conclusion, my projects underscore the importance of continuing to strive towards a digital utopia that can be truly equitable and inclusive. And that's all. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And thank you for Eden for hosting this meeting. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So this was our last presentation for this evening. We would like to do a little bit of a informal Q&A. And what we'd like to ask is that if you have a question, to please put it in the chat. And then we will have the artist, the presenter, reply to that, just to sort of avoid chaos, as you know, so not everyone sort of jumps in at the same time. So if you have any questions, please put it in the chat, and I will direct some of that. I think after quite a long presentation. Everyone's tired. There's a question about AI. How has your practice changed with AI? The presenters, any one of you, please feel free to jump in and start replying.
I'll start. I have a very love-hate relationship with AI. I'm still kind of apprehensive about it as a tool. But I will say that like within specifically Floriverse, a lot of the petals and everything were constructed through the use of AI, specifically within Photoshop. And another artist, David Santee, he's based in New York City, was also part of my cohort in Loop. And he did entirely AI work during that time, and having discussions with him at the time, I was very against AI, really kind of changed my thoughts about and process about it. I think now it just kind of, it gives his main thing, and I agree with it, is just that it really provides opportunities and accessibility to make such fantastical pieces of work. But I do stress that with like, understanding kind of the heritage of where those source files are coming from.
Yeah, very recently, I think Lev Manovich sort of proclaimed that AI has sort of reached its creative, something to that effect, its sort of creative boundaries, if you would, that it's now being hampered or taken down by the limitations of our creative, of human imagination. But no one's ever accused him of ranting, so. Crystal, there's a question for you about the residency. If you would take a look at that and answer.
Yes, give me 1 second. So Loop is a, it's on onland.io. It is Ariel, I always butcher her last name, Baron Robbins, I believe, and Mud Foundation, which is based in Miami. And they're free. You don't have to submit a resume or anything like that. It's very accessible to everyone. I really enjoyed the fact that when Ariel does it, she just looks for 3 images that you have to submit and your name and potential like online handles. They're also curated, which I didn't mention. So the curator for my cohort was Laura Mills. Carla Gannis is also curated, a bunch of other people as well. I know that there's an open call right now. Yes, Ariel Baron Robbins, thank you very much. What was I trying? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I know that there's a call right now for it as well. I highly encourage it. I think it's great. There was people from Greece, a couple people from Italy. Again, like I said, I met Galina Shavenko there, and we literally live less than 20 miles away from each other. So.
Do you by chance have a website that
Yeah,
you
I can add that to
share?
the chat as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I also had a question, so I'm going to put that in the chat first. Great.
Roopa, the question's for you.
Yeah, the choice of sites to include, that's a really good one. Honestly, they were sites that had a really personal connection that I remembered spending a lot of time on. And it should be noted that not all of them are sites, right? One of the plaques memorializes the dial-up modem. And you get to the site, you're instructed to press on the folder that looks like connecting to the dial-up modem. Then you're presented with the sound and then a page loading really slowly like it did in the dial-up modem days, right? So it's a lot of experiences, a lot of things that I'm thinking about from my formative experiences using the internet for the first time, things that I realize I really miss today in my kind of frequent engagement with online tools and systems, both in my professional practice as an artist. Most of my work is internet or browser based, but also, in my existence as a human being living in the world today, right? So thinking about the internet as an experience, as something that wasn't around 24/7, something that you actively had to participate in and actively had to journey towards. Those were the things that were really interesting to me in this first version. And like I said, in the second version, I'm expanding outwards and kind of thinking about other experiences, sites, places, technologies that really we profoundly miss in this day and age, and things that we might want to draw inspiration from as we kind of think about remodeling that space.
Did you ever have any engagement with Friendster?
I did, yeah. It was on the list, but it didn't make the cut for this first version.
The thing about Friendster that I found now, especially in retrospect, very interesting, was that, I mean, it sort of got pushed aside by MySpace, but there was a very, very racist undertone for a lot of people skipping from Friendster onto MySpace. Sort of the center of the activity sort of shifted from America to Asia. And it was sort of like, as soon as that became sort of apparent to a lot of people, people sort of jumped. And as soon as you said, well, I haven't seen you on Friendster, the amount of vile, if you would, stuff that came out was quite shocking and surprising. Like, so what? Like, so people in Asia are participating. I don't see a problem.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, not to make this a complete tangent, but Friendster came out, I think I joined Friendster the summer between my first and second year of college. And then in my second year of college, Facebook launched, and I was at a university that got access to Facebook in 2004. So I was one of the first cohort of people to join Facebook and to be on there. So for us, it wasn't a jump from Friendster to MySpace. It was a jump from Friendster to Facebook, because Facebook was this intimate, in-person, peer-to-peer community that felt a little bit more organic, and it felt a little bit like something we would have gotten to anyway. It was just kind of expanding our network a little bit. So yeah, very different experiences based on where you were. And that's definitely something that I'd like to probe further as I work on this project in the future.
Folks, it's almost 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. So unless there is any immediate burning questions, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for all the participants, and thank you for those who came and listened to all the work. So thank you. Have a good evening. See you next year.